Hello and welcome to today's assembly. This half term, our core value is resilience, and it's something we're going to be focusing on for the whole of this half term. Resilience is a really important skill that we all need to develop throughout our lives. So when we talk about resilience, what is it exactly that we mean? Well, being resilient means being able to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune, something that is difficult, or something that changes suddenly. And we know we've all been through massive changes over the last 18 months, and it is really a vital skill. We all face challenges throughout our lives at some times. The importance is to be able to overcome those challenges. As the quote says, life is not about how fast you run or how high you climb, but how well you bounce back. And that's what we're going to be thinking about, why it's so important. Now, when I was a teenager, 17, I was really desperate to learn how to drive. Now, in order to be able to drive, I had to have lessons. So I found a driving instructor at a driving school, and it was just about the time when I was thinking of leaving home to go to university to become a teacher. So I did lots of lessons and I practiced in my dad's car. And then a week before I was due to leave home, I took my driving test, and guess what? I failed. I was so disappointed. I thought, well, what's the point? Why did I even bother? I'm just going to give up. So unfortunately, I had a little car that my dad had bought for me to go away with, but I had to sell that. And because I was a student, I couldn't afford to have driving lessons anymore. So I thought, I'm never going to learn to drive. But eventually I did manage to get myself a little job and earn some money. And I found myself another driving instructor in London. And thankfully, after several lessons and practicing, I did pass my driving test. Hooray! So when you see somebody out on the road who's got that P on their car, it means that they've recently passed their driving test. So they've been resilient, they've had those lessons, they've taken the test and they've passed. So well done to them for persevering. Now, something else that I'm sure many of you can do is ride a bike. And the vast majority of people learn to ride a bike when they're young. And it's much easier when you're young to learn to ride a bike. And I'm sure some of you can remember your experiences of learning to ride a bike. Well, here we're going to look at some adults who are learning to ride a bike and look at what they go through in order to be able to get there, their thoughts and their feelings, and how they persevere to get there in the end. It was my best friend who taught me how to ride a bike, and I always remember that first time. And when my own children learned to ride bikes, I hadn't ridden a bike for many, many years. And so I thought, well, in order to keep up with them, I better get myself a bike too. And because I hadn't ridden one for such a long time, I had to buy myself a bike and then relearn how to ride the bike. And it was very tricky, and I did fall off several times and have lots of bumps and bruises and scrapes, but I'm so glad I did, and it's fantastic exercise. So let's see how these adults get on learning how to ride their bikes.
I'm looking out there, I'm picking a spot, and then I'm just gonna go for it, right? So I just step into it, push off, and go. You'll be balancing and then you'll be pedaling in no time. Okay. So I'm gonna have you just scoot at first, and then if you can, and you're gonna need a little bit of speed, and that's a little bit of a leap of faith.
I've tried to learn a couple of times, and so it's sort of, maybe this will be like one of the last hurrahs, and hopefully I get the hang of it this time.
So they have to feel the balance point, and it's a feel thing, it's not a systematic thing, it's more about feel. And so understanding that they can control the balance.
I'm kind of scared that I won't be able to pick it up because I've tried a bunch of times. So I'm scared I'm gonna make a fool of myself or just take a ton of classes and still never learn. They told me it was like 6% of adults don't know how to ride a bike. I was actually hoping it was higher, like 15, 20. 6 seems really small, but that's okay. I'm fine. Let's start. Yeah.
How you feel?
All right. You ready to pedal?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think you are too. And then kind of push off with your right leg. Okay, you got it. You got it. Keep going.
I was thinking about a million things. It was like I'm trying to like go straight, get my feet on the pedals, look forward, not fall, not hit a rock. I mean, various things are going through my mind.
You're riding a bike.
Now, someone else who had to be resilient is this author here. Now, who knows who this author is? That's right, it's Mallory Blackman. And I know some of you have been using one of her books as a core text. Now, Mallory Blackman always wanted to be a writer. And when she'd finished her first novel, she sent it off to a publisher to see if they would publish it for her. And no, they didn't like it and sent it back to her. So she sent it off to another publisher, who again rejected it and sent it back. And she received over 80 rejections. So imagine that, sending it off all that many times, that people coming back saying, no, it's not good enough. But she didn't give up, she persevered, and being resilient goes hand in hand with persevering. And eventually she did get her first book published. And she has now published over 50 different books, as well as writing programs for the television. So here are some of her books here. I know some of you are familiar with them. And make sure you do read some of her books because they are fantastic. So she has been a very successful writer, but had she given up, we would not have all of this wonderful array of fantastic literature that she has provided for us. Somebody else who had to be resilient is this person here, and there's a big clue as to what he does. So this is Colonel Sanders, who develops a recipe for fried chicken, and he tried to find somebody to invest in his business, and it took him a very, very long time. And in fact, it wasn't until he was 65 years old that he found somebody who would go in with him. And he developed the KFC chain, which is internationally famous now and in most countries around the world. Again, if he'd given up, and when he couldn't find anybody in the beginning to go into business with him, the business wouldn't exist. Now, sometimes in school in particular, I hear children saying things like, I haven't learned my timetables, I don't know how to do my timetables, or Mrs. Ray, I hear this a lot, Mrs. Ray, can you help me because I can't tie my shoelaces, or I don't know how to do my work. And then people just sit there and wait. Now, you could just give up. People would say, well, I don't know my timetables, or I'm never going to be able to do my shoelaces, or I don't know how to do this, so I'm just not going to do it. But there's a 3-letter word that you can put on the end of those sentences that changes everything. Now, who can remember what that word is? It's a very, very important and a very useful word. Okay, it's this word, and it is a game changer. It's the word yet. Just because you can't do something now doesn't mean that you will never be able to do it. So I haven't learnt my times tables yet. So what can you do to help you learn them? Well, you've all got logins for Timetables Rockstars, and I'm sure it's not all of your tables that you don't know. So think about which ones do you know and which ones can you use to help you learn the ones that you don't know. So think about the skills that you need and what you can do to help you to get there. Something else, I can't tie my shoelaces yet. So how are you going to learn? Which bit can you do? Can you just tie the knot first? And then it's the next bit when you have to do the little bunny ears that you can't do. And how can you learn? Is there a toy that you can practice lacing up on? Can you practice lacing up on a shoe? Is there somebody who can teach you? Somebody who can go through it with you? And I don't know how to do my work. I'm stuck. What can you do? Well, I have to say that having focused on collaboration last half term, lots of you I know do collaborate with your classmates or with your partner, or you look at the flip charts that are around the class, or you look back at your work, and then when you've done that, perhaps you might ask an adult. So just because you can't do it now doesn't mean that you'll never be able to do it. So think about that word yet, and then think about what you're going to do to change that. So stumbling, a setback. who benefits and how do we benefit? So they're an opportunity to learn. So something's gone wrong, you can't do something, that means it's an opportunity for you to learn and find out something new. We learn out what doesn't work, and then we find ways of changing it or making something work. And it offers us a chance to reflect and to change our plans, to do something different. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to keep getting the same result. So what can you do differently to make it work? And obviously, we need setbacks. If nothing ever goes wrong, then you won't know how to deal with it when something does go wrong, and it makes it even harder. So you'll be more confident at dealing with things that go wrong, because you know it doesn't last forever and you can change things and things can get better. And they also help us to empathize with people when things go wrong for them, so that we will help them and make their experiences better and help them when things go wrong for them. So let's hope that we can all develop our resilience this half term. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.